Family thought I was rich because of my company car. They handed me an $8,000 bill. My name is Mike. I am 27 years old. And 10 days ago, I stood in the middle of a rented VFW hall in rural Ohio, holding a catering invoice for $8,000, while my uncle screamed that I was the biggest con artist in the state. It wasn't because I had stolen money. It wasn't because I had run a Ponzi scheme. It was because I refused to pay for a wedding I hadn't been invited to until a week prior, using money I didn't have to maintain a lie I never told. It all ended with me driving away in a 2024 Lexus ES 350, with heated leather seats and a premium sound system. That car is the reason my family hates me. To them, that car represents success, overflow, and an endless line of credit. To me, that car represents a fleet number, a mileage log, and a job at a pharmaceutical company that pays me $55,000 a year plus commission if I hit my numbers. To understand how a mid-level sales rep became the villain of the family reunion, you have to understand where I come from. I grew up in a town where the biggest employer was a corrugated box factory. My dad worked there. My uncles worked there. If you drove a truck, you were working. If you drove a sedan, you were a manager. If you drove a luxury sedan, you were untouchable. I was the first one in my family to go to a 4-year university. I took out loans, ate ramen, and graduated with a degree in marketing. I landed a job as a field sales representative for a major pharmaceutical distributor. The perks were standard for the industry. A laptop, a phone, an expense account for client lunches, and a company car. The day I drove that black Lexus home for Christmas 2 years ago was the beginning of the end. I pulled into my parents' gravel driveway. The car was gleaming. It looked like a spaceship landed next to my dad's rusted Silverado and my mom's dented minivan. My Uncle Jerry was there drinking a Miller Lite on the porch. He whistled low and long. "Look at that," Jerry said, walking around the car, running his hand over the hood like it was a prize horse. "Mikey made it to the big leagues." "What is this? A $60,000 ride?" "Something like that," I said, grabbing my duffel bag from the trunk. "It's a great car. Smooth ride." I didn't say it belongs to the company. I didn't say I'm not allowed to let anyone else drive it. I didn't say if I get fired they come with a tow truck to take it back within 24 hours. I was 25, proud of my new job, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the broke college kid. I liked the look of respect in my uncle's eyes. I let the silence do the talking. That was my mistake. In my family, silence isn't empty, it's a canvas where they paint their own reality. Over the next 2 years, the legend of Rich Mike grew. Every time I came home, I was in a suit because I usually drove straight from a client meeting. I would take my parents out to dinner, and pay with a company card, because it was technically a client development meal if I discussed health trends with them. A gray area I exploited to treat them. To them, I was just throwing down a corporate MX like it was water. The request started small. "Hey Mike, you got $20 for gas? Hey Mike, can you pick up the tab for the beers?" I always said yes. $20 here, $50 there. Felt good to be the provider. I didn't realize I wasn't just buying beers. I was buying a reputation I couldn't afford to maintain. The turning point was my cousin Kyla's wedding. Kyla is Uncle Jerry's daughter. She's sweet, but she has champagne taste on a box factory budget. She got engaged to a guy named Travis, who works part-time at a body shop. They announced a wedding date for June. I received an invitation marked Family VIP. I thought it was nice. I checked yes and bought a toaster off their registry. Then the phone call started. First, it was my mom. "Mike, Aunt Linda is struggling with the deposit for the flowers. It's only $500. Since you're doing so well, maybe you could help her out." "It's family." I hesitated. I had just paid my student loan bill, and my rent in Columbus had gone up, but I had $500 in savings. "Okay," I said just this once. 2 weeks later, it was Uncle Jerry. "Mikey, listen. The limo company is jerking us around. They need a credit card on file for the deposit just to hold the reservation. I'll pay you cash at the reception." "I don't know, Uncle Jerry," I said. "My card has a limit." "Don't give me that." He laughed. A booming, confident sound. "Mr. Lexus has a limit. Come on." This for Kyla. "You want her to arrive in a Honda?" I gave him the card number. I told myself it was just a hold. I didn't know that behind my back. The narrative had spun out of control. Apparently Uncle Jerry had been telling everyone, the caterer, the DJ, the venue owner, that his nephew, the VP of sales in Columbus, was backing the wedding. He told them not to worry about payment plans because Mikey is good for it. He used my silence, my car and my suit to build a credit line of trust with half the vendors in town. The crash happened last Saturday. The wedding was supposed to be in 2 days. I drove down early because Mom said there was a family emergency dinner at the VFW hall where the reception was being held. I thought someone had died. I pulled into the lot in the Lexus. I was wearing my work suit because I had come from a hospital visit in Dayton. As I stepped out, I saw the whole extended family waiting. Aunt Linda, Uncle Jerry, Kyla, Travis, and about 10 other cousins. They weren't crying. They were smiling. But it was a desperate, tight kind of smiling. "Here he is," Uncle Jerry shouted, throwing his arms open. "The man of the hour, the savior." I frowned, locking the car. "What's going on?" "Mom said there was an emergency." "It's a good emergency," Kyla squalled, running over to hug me. She was crying happy tears. "Mike, I don't know how to thank you. Dad told me you were going to handle it. You're literally saving my life." "Handle what?" I asked, pulling back. A cold feeling started to creep up my spine. Uncle Jerry stepped forward, putting a heavy hand on my shoulder. He steered me toward a man in a polo shirt holding a clipboard. "Mike, this is Dave. Dave runs the catering in the venue. There was a little mix-up with the bank." Dave looked at me with relief. "Nice to meet you, Mike." "Yeah, Jerry said you'd be here to settle the balance. We were about to pull the staff for Saturday, but Jerry assured me his nephew was bringing the check." "The check," I repeated. I looked at Dave, then at Jerry. "What balance?" "It's just the final payment," Jerry said quickly, his voice dropping a decibel, "and the open bar add-on, and the deposit we missed last month. Just write the check and I'll pay you back when the tax refund comes in." Dave held out the invoice. I took it. I looked at the bottom line. Total due, $8,450. I stared at the number. It might as well have been $1 billion. I had exactly $1,200 in my checking account. My credit card, the personal one, not the company one, had a limit of $5,000, and it was already halfway maxed out from my own life expenses. I laughed. It was an involuntary hysterical bark of a laugh. 8,000. I looked at Jerry. "You want me to write a check for $8,000? It's for family, Mike." Aunt Linda chimed in, stepping closer. "Kyla has been so stressed. Just pay the man so we can start setting up the tables." The entitlement was so thick I could taste it. They didn't ask, they expected. They had stood in the circle, discussed my money, allocated my money, and promised my money, all without ever dialing my number. "I can't," I said. The smile dropped from Jerry's face. "What do you mean you can't? Don't be cheap, Mike. Not today." "I don't mean I won't," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "I mean, I can't. I don't have $8,000. The silence that followed was heavy. Kyla stopped crying. Travis looked at his shoes. Dave the caterer narrowed his eyes. "Stop joking," Jerry snapped. He pointed a thick finger at the parking lot. "You drive a car that costs more than my house. You wear 500 shoes. You work for Big Pharma. Don't stand here and lie to us." "That car," I said, pointing back at the Lexus, "belongs to Apex Pharmaceuticals. It's a fleet vehicle. I don't own it. I don't make payments on it. I can't sell it. It's a work tool, Jerry. It's like a plumber's van, just nicer." But you pay for all the dinners," moaned from the back. "The steaks, the wine expense account," I said. "If I take you out and talk about business for 5 minutes, the company pays for the steak. That's not my money. That's corporate money." "And your salary?" Jerry demanded. "You're a VP. I am a territory sales manager." I corrected him. "That is a fancy word for salesman. I make $55,000 a year base salary. After taxes, student loans, rent, and the car insurance I have to pay for personal use. I have about $1,000 in the bank right now." I looked at Dave. "I'm sorry, Dave. There is no check. There is no secret stash. I'm just a guy with a job." If I thought the truth would bring understanding, I was dead wrong. I watched their faces transform. They didn't look sympathetic. They looked betrayed. They looked furious. "You liar," Kyla hissed. "You let us believe you were rich. You let us plan this whole wedding thinking we had a safety net." "I never told you I was rich," I shouted back. "You assumed. You saw a shiny car and a suit and you stopped asking questions. You walked around like you were better than us." Uncle Jerry roared, his face turning purple. "Flashing that card. Park in that car in the front." You made us look like fools. I told Dave you were good for it. You made me a liar. You are a liar, Jerry. I snapped. You promised money you didn't have. That's the definition of a liar. Get out. Aunt Linda screamed. She was holding Kyla, who was now sobbing hysterically about her ruined wedding. If you can't help family, then you aren't family. You're just a fraud. A broke fraud in a borrowed suit. With pleasure, I said. I turned around. I could feel their eyes boring into my back. Dave the caterer was already on his phone, probably calling his crew to pack up the equipment. Wait! Jerry yelled as I reached the door. I paused, thinking maybe, just maybe, he was going to apologize. You still owe for the limo deposit? He shouted. That went on your card. I didn't turn around. I walked out into the humid Ohio air. I unlocked the Lexus. I sat in the driver's seat and took a deep breath. The smell of the leather, which used to make me feel successful, now just smelled like chemicals and plastic. I pulled out my phone. I opened my banking app. I saw the pending charge for the limo deposit. I called the credit card company right there in the parking lot. Hi, I need to report an unauthorized transaction, I said, watching my family arguing with the caterer through the window of the VFW. I didn't authorize a hold for a limousine service. Yes. Please cancel the card and issue a new one. I hung up. I put the car in drive. As I pulled out of the lot, my phone started blowing up. Texts from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. How could you do this to Kyla? You're a selfish prick. Fake. Mom says, don't bother coming for Christmas. I drove 3 hours back to Columbus in silence. No music, no podcast, just the hum of the engine and the realization that my entire status in my family was built on a foundation of chrome and ignorance. The fallout has been spectacular. The wedding was canceled. Apparently Dave doesn't work on iUse. Kyla and Travis went to the courthouse, and Kyla posted a long Facebook status about how toxic family members ruined her fairy tale. Uncle Jerry is telling everyone in town that I embezzled money from the family and that I'm currently under investigation, which is hilarious considering they think I'm broke. My parents are the quietest. They called me once 2 days ago. We just don't understand, my mom said, her voice small. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? I asked. That I work for a living, that I'm not a millionaire. Mom. I've been working since I was 16. You know who I am. We thought you had made it, she said. We were so proud to tell people our son was comfortable. Now we look like idiots. You embarrassed your father. I'm sorry that my actual life isn't as good as the fantasy you invented. I said, well, she sighed. Uncle Jerry is really mad. He says you need to pay the cancellation fees for the venue. He says it's the least you can do for leading us on. Tell Uncle Jerry. I said that he can send the bill to Apex Pharmaceuticals. I'm sure their legal department will have a great time with it. I hung up tonight. I'm sitting in my studio apartment. I'm eating a sandwich. My luxury car is parked on the street because I don't have a garage. I have work tomorrow. I have to drive 2 hours to meet a doctor and beg him to prescribe a new cholesterol medication. I will wear my suit. I will drive my shiny car. I will smile and shake hands and pretend to be successful because that is my job. But the difference is tomorrow night when I come home, I won't have to pretend for anyone else. The illusion is dead. The rich cousin is dead. And honestly, being the broke fraud feels incredible. I saved $8,000 by being a disappointment. I think I'll buy myself a really nice bottle of beer, just one, and I'm going to pay for it with